So MAGA Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, and the rest of the MAGA Republicans roll back into Capitol Hill and immediately lose it trying to justify Donald Trump's illegal invasion of Venezuela. You know, the one that's deeply unpopular with pretty much everyone in the US. Just take a look at MAGA Mike. Seriously, look at him. Doesn't he just radiate that weak, pathetic vibe during the press conference he held last night? And here's the kicker. MAGA Mike, who's supposed to be fiercely protecting Article 1 of the Constitution, you know, the part where Congress needs to authorize war, turns around and says, "We didn't need to authorize this. As long as we got notice at some point later, that's all that matters to Congress." MAGA Mike, this is why you're a pathetic little weasel and why you really need to go. Just watch this. Play the clip.
Acknowledge here is that this is an operation that did not require prior consent of Congress, prior authorization of Congress. It required notification of Congress. It's well within Article 2. I know as many details as I can know before going to the SCIF for the classified briefing, but I spoke with the President of the United States, the Secretary of State, the Secretary of Defense within hours of the operation commencing.
Then MAGA Mike turns around and says, this wasn't about regime change at all. Really? Because, you know, we literally just kidnapped Maduro. But hey, no big deal. Now Delsi Rodríguez is the president. You heard that right? Maduro's right-hand woman. And when she was sworn in on Monday, there she was, hugging the leaders of Russia, Iran, and China. But don't worry, she's our girl now. Yeah, that's right, everyone. She's our lady. So here's what MAGA Mike has to say about Delsi Rodríguez, Trump's pick. Not Maria Corina Machado, the opposition leader. Nah, Trump wants someone from Maduro's regime. Here, play this clip.
This is not a regime change. This is a demand for change of behavior by a regime. The interim government is stood up now, and we are hopeful that they will be able to correct their action. They cannot participate with narco-terrorists and very dangerous international criminal organizations that harm and target Americans, frankly, and traffic all of these dangerous drugs into our country, that do all this great harm to our country. They cannot continue that activity. We have a way of persuasion because their oil exports, as you know, have been ceased, and I think that will bring the country to a new governance in very short order.
Next up, we have MAGA Republican Jim Jordan on CNN. They ask him straight up, do you support American boots on the ground? And his response, well, we're not ruling it out. Just maybe not yet. Let's just trust whatever Donald Trump says. Just trust him and we'll see where this goes. Yeah, trust Trump. That's the plan. Classic. Here, play this clip.
Do you support putting American boots on the ground in Venezuela for a long period of time?
Well, again, that's a question for later. I think most Americans are again, trust the president to do what's in the best interest of the American people and the best interest, frankly, of the folks in Venezuela. I mean, you see the cheering in the streets.
Isn't this a question you have
here.
to think about before you do something like this?
And I'm sure they have. They want this transition to work out in a way that benefits America. President Trump, every decision he makes, it's one thing I know about this guy is I think he makes those decisions in the best interest of the American people, the best interest of our country, and they tend to have positive implications for the rest of the world.
Then Jim Jordan chimes in again saying, look, all this will be worked out later. Yeah, no big deal. Just do whatever Donald Trump tells you to do. Classic move, right? This is exactly why these MAGA Republicans are so pathetic. Your whole job in Congress is to be a check on the executive branch, and you're the ones who are supposed to authorize war. These MAGAs, they're even worse than the Duma in Russia. Seriously. Here, play this clip.
I know, you have family ties to people who serve. Your family has been in service. I mean, there are military families across the country watching this and thinking, okay, what does this mean for my family? What do you say to those people?
I trust the commander-in-chief. I think the vast majority of Americans do as well. This guy projects strength. Again, you look at the track record. You can go to another adversary. You look at Russia. Russia takes Crimea when President Obama is president, and then they go into Ukraine when it's President Biden. Nothing happened when President Trump was there. I think the strength he projects as commander-in-chief, as the president in the Oval Office, is something the American people appreciate. And again, I think the facts and the track record point that out.
Do you think the United States should run Venezuela?
Well, I think we're going to work on making sure there's a better outcome for America in our backyard and for the people of Venezuela.
That's what south easily.
I trust the president. Again, I think when the president has said he was going to do something, he gets results. I like what Secretary Rubio, how he's handled things, how he spoke at the press event on Saturday. So I trust these guys. We'll see how this shakes out. But I think right now the American people are saying, well done, Mr. President.
So now we've got Senator Markwayne Mullin from Oklahoma, who steps in with his own take. He says, look, here's what we need to do. And I think Trump's plan is all about promoting democracy, holding free and fair elections, and getting those political prisoners out of Venezuela. Which is funny because Trump's whole thing has been exactly the opposite. He's not pushing democracy. He wants Delsi Rodríguez, Maduro's right hand, to take the lead. It's like they're living in two different worlds. Here, play the clip.
So what we want to see is that the Venezuela people take their country back and they become that democracy again. And I think that's what the president is saying right now. We're going to watch, but we're going to leave it up to the Venezuela people to choose their next government, to choose their leadership and put their country back on track. And America is going to fully support that moving forward.
Now we've got MAGA Senator Rick Scott, and his take is something else. He says, look, I'm just glad Trump didn't just take Maduro out, but he's committed to freedom and democracy in Venezuela, which, you know, is literally the opposite of what Trump's been saying. But hey, let's roll with it. Then Scott goes, but we'll see where we go from here. We don't know yet. It'll be like a choose-your-own-adventure novel wherever Trump takes us. Yeah, because that's definitely what we need. A choose-your-own-adventure when it comes to foreign policy. Here, play this clip.
I'm glad the president didn't just take Maduro and walk away. I'm glad that he is committed. He is committed to freedom and democracy in Venezuela. Now, I've talked to Marco Rubio about it. I've talked to the president about it. They're committed to freedom and liberty. Now, I can't tell you how they're going to get there, but I believe we're going to get there.
Then we've got MAGA Republican Congressman Carlos Jimenez. He was at that press conference with other MAGA Republicans from South Florida just over the past 24 hours. So they ask him, what kind of oversight do you plan to have in the Armed Services Committee? And Carlos Jimenez, with all the seriousness you'd expect, responds, the only question I have for Trump, the Trump Secretary of State, and the Department of Defense is, how did you do it so brilliantly? All I want to know is how brilliant were you? Yeah, oversight at its finest, and asking how brilliant they were. That's real accountability right there. Here, play this clip.
The leadership of the House Armed Services Committee is set to be briefed tonight by Trump administration officials. What questions do you have today, sir?
Well, the questions that I would have is just how brilliantly they carried out the operation. I thought that it's textbook. It's probably something that will be studied for years on end, how they were able to go into Venezuela and arrest somebody that's been wanted by the United States justice system. And so those are the questions that I really have about it. Most of the answers are going to be classified, so I can't share that with you.
So your questions are logistical.
To see how they just did it. Yeah, logistical. That's exactly right. Because I'm fine with what they did. I'm absolutely 100% fine with capturing a fugitive from American justice in Nicolas Maduro.
Also, at that press conference yesterday, Congresswoman Maria Salazar was speaking. She's a big supporter of Maria Corina Machado, the opposition leader Trump claims doesn't have the respect of the Venezuelan people. But instead, Trump wants people from Maduro's regime. You know, the one seen hugging the ambassadors from China, Russia, and Iran. Classic. Then Salazar says, look, it's only been 48 hours. Just give it a few months, give it some years, we'll see where this all goes. Yeah, because nothing says solid foreign policy like waiting for years to see what happens. This is what MAGA Republican Congresswoman Maria Salazar from South Florida had to say. Play this clip.
Yes. So just real quickly, if you can, Maria Machado, you just heard what Congressman Crow said about her not being part of this, at least the initial stage of this plan. I know that you traveled to Oslo with her. Was she disappointed to hear that they're allowing the elevation of the vice president to run the country for now?
Well, I have not been able to talk to her, but I do know that she is very much pro-America, and she dedicated that Nobel Peace Prize to the president. We have to put things into context, and the opposition within Venezuela understands that. We need to, this Delsi lady who swore herself in, and that we have to work with her for now. But Marco Rubio said it. It's been 48 hours. Let's give us a few months until we create the stability. And I'm sure that Maria Corina Machado, who is the leader of the opposition, of the Democratic opposition, will go back in, be able to put together the process so you can have free and fair elections with international observers. I'm sure she will be the nominee that Maduro did not allow her to be, the presidential nominee. I'm sure she's going to win. Okay. But, you know, the good thing here is that the Americans are behind all of this, not the Russians or the Cubans or the Chinese.
And she's also the congresswoman who brought up the Liberty Act, or whatever she calls it. You know, the one who was out there saying right before and after Trump won that she guaranteed all her constituents, a lot of Cubans, Venezuelans, Hondurans, and other immigrants in her district, that Trump's immigration plan would only go after criminals. She said, housing China, he's not going after the people who've been here for a long time. There'll be the Liberty Act, the Dignity Act, a path with dignity. That's what she said. You saw her clip right there. Then we've got MAGA Republican Congressman Scott Fitzgerald, who comes out and says, this wasn't even a war. It was just a law enforcement operation. A basic law enforcement operation. Nothing more. Sounds like Putin. He literally calls this a special operation, you know, like a law enforcement operation, where the Trump regime just seizes the oil and resources, installs someone they think will give them everything, and make sure American oil companies were briefed before and after the whole thing. And just think about that for a second. According to Trump, oil companies knew about the Venezuela invasion before Congress ever even did. Here's what Congressman Fitzgerald had to say. Play this clip.
To Maria, I think the more analysis and the more I hear those that have a legitimate opinion about what happened, and if you just take kind of what Secretary Hegseth said kind of at face value, this is strictly a law enforcement type of operation with support from the U.S. military. You know, they can debate all they want, the Monroe Doctrine, which I would say, I think one of the things that's been missing in the discussion is that President Roosevelt revisited this, Teddy Roosevelt, and, you know, made it very clear that this is about each hemisphere as well globally, and our ability to make sure that countries that are located in our backyard are not a threat to the states. And that's why I think, you know, they can debate this all day in the U.S. Senate, which they're known for. But at the end of the day, it was a law enforcement action.
Well, I mean, it's really interesting to see the priorities of the Democrats right now and how they get so upset over everything President Trump does. Meanwhile, he's focusing on such enormous things, drugs coming into the country, securing our borders. It's quite a difference in terms of what you're looking at, in terms of priorities of the Democrats.
So here's the clip of Congresswoman Salazar, Congressman Gimenez, and Congressman Diaz-Balart when they were asked why they don't support Maria Corina Machado, the main opposition leader, since they're backing Trump's plan. Trump himself claims Machado doesn't have the support of the Venezuelan people. And then Diaz-Balart completely loses it. He starts yelling at the reporters like, why are you putting words in my mouth? Of course we support her. Yeah, well, if you're supporting Trump's plan, then you just threw her under the bus, didn't you? Here, play that clip.
Why are you not willing to support Maria Corina El Mundo to be...
Wait, hold on. Hold on a second. First, you're talking to us?
Yes.
When have we ever not supported her?
No,
wait. But let's look. These are serious issues. Do not put words in my mouth. And do not. No. Wait. But you said us. You said us. You said us. Okay. But it's very. I will not tolerate putting words in my mouth or my colleague's mouth.
Yeah.
We have been consistent from day one, and I am convinced there's going to be a transition. We already talked about that. And I'm convinced that when there are elections, whether there are new elections or there's a decision to take the old elections, the last elections, that the next democratically elected president of Venezuela is going to be Maria Corina Machado.
And then we've got MAGA Republican Senator Lindsey Graham, who, honestly, it's hard to tell what's going on in his personal life, but whatever it is, he's clearly overcompensating. It's like he's aroused by war now. It's really disturbing to watch. Honestly, it's kind of grotesque. Watching him get all hyped up by the idea of war, it's almost like a weird kind of pornographic fixation, just gross. And then he says, Iran, you're next. And to top it off, he puts on a hat with Make Iran Great Again while on Fox, the state-run media of his choice. Here, play this clip.
They've chosen not to live this way anymore. And unlike Obama, President Trump has not turned his back on the people of Iran. So I pray and hope that 2026 will be the year that we make Iran great again.
Now here he is, sitting down with Trey Gowdy on Fox. Let's check out the clip.
All right, Chairman, it was great fun being with you and the president last night and again this morning. Feel free to Venmo me the money that you lost to me on the golf course. I do accept Venmo. Until then,
I'll send
you take care.
Well, here's the good news, Trey. Here's the good news. I'm gonna pay you, but it will be in Venezuelan dollars. So good luck.
I can't wait.
Then you've got Stephen Miller saying, we're a superpower, and as superpowers, America needs to dominate the Western Hemisphere. This is all about domination. It's honestly hard to take him seriously, though. He just comes off as such a pathetic guy. Seriously, what's with these weak, pathetic men out there? Stephen Miller, you're a joke. Here, play this clip.
The United States is using its military to secure our interests unapologetically in our hemisphere. We're a superpower, and under President Trump, we are going to conduct ourselves as a superpower. It is absurd that we would allow a nation in our own backyard to become the supplier of resources to our adversaries, but not to us, to hoard weapons from our adversaries, to be able to be positioned as an asset against the United States rather than on behalf of the United States.
Sovereign countries shouldn't be able to do what they want to do.
The Monroe Doctrine and the Trump Doctrine is all about securing the national interests of America. For years, we sent our soldiers to die in deserts in the Middle East to try to build them parliaments, to try to build them democracies, to try to give them more oil, to try to give them more resources. The future of the free world, Jake, depends on America being able to assert ourselves and our interests without apology. This whole period that happened after World War II, where the West began apologizing and groveling and begging
I don't even
and
know
engaging these
honestly
mass
what you're talking
reparation
about right
schemes.
now.
What I'm talking about, Jake, is the idea. And by the way, you do. I know you love doing that smarmy thing, Jake, and I was hoping to be better than that this time.
I asked you about if there should be an election.
Exactly.
I asked you if there would be an election in Venezuela. That's what I asked. I said, why was the president so quick to dismiss Machado? You answered that question. And then I said,
the objective, Jake, is security and stability for the people of Venezuela. With our help and leadership, that country will become more prosperous than it has ever been in its whole history. Venezuelans
but the woman
will be richer
running Venezuela
and
right now
safer
is
and
part
more
of the Maduro
secure and
regime.
better off. There will be conversations, Jake, about all of these guideposts along the way. The reason why I was giving you that speech, which I know you didn't want to hear, is because you're approaching this from the wrong frame. This neoliberal frame.
And then Stephen Miller doesn't even rule out going to war with Greenland. When asked, so are we going to go to war with Greenland? Miller straight up says, we're going to take it. One way or another, Greenland's going to be ours. Seriously? Greenland? Just roll with this clip.
Important topic. The premier of Greenland and the premier of Denmark and other Danish officials are responding to a Twitter post from your wife, Katie Miller, herself a former Trump White House official, showing Greenland covered with an American flag, saying soon. After that was posted, President Trump repeated the claim that the U.S. needs Greenland for national security reasons. The Danish prime minister responded to this in an interview earlier today, as reported by Bloomberg, quote, I believe one should take the American president seriously when he says he wants Greenland, but I will also make it clear that if the U.S. chooses to attack another NATO country militarily, then everything stops, including NATO, and thus the security that has been established since the end of the Second World War. Can you rule out that the U.S. is ever going to try to take Greenland by force?
Well, let me go back a step. The president has been clear for months now. So I know you're treating this as breaking news. The president has been clear for months now that the United States should be the nation that has Greenland as part of our overall security apparatus. The United
Right,
States,
but your wife posted that like hours after the Venezuela operation. That's why it's newly relevant.
No, I'll talk with you about it for an hour. I think it's a really important conversation. I just wanted to reset, Jake, by making clear that it has been the formal position of the U.S. government since the beginning of this administration, frankly, going back into the previous Trump administration, that Greenland should be part of the United States. The president has been very clear about that. That is the formal position of the U.S. government.
Right, but can you say that military action against Greenland is off the table?
It wouldn't be military action against Greenland. The Greenland has a population of 30,000 people, Jake. The real question is, by what right does Denmark assert control over Greenland? What is the basis of their territorial claim? What is their basis of having Greenland as a colony of Denmark? The United States is the power of NATO. For the United States to secure the Arctic region, to protect and defend NATO and NATO interests, obviously Greenland should be part of the United States. And so that's a conversation that we're going to have as a country. That's a process we're going to have as a community of nations.
So you can't take it off the table that the U.S. would use military force to seize Greenland. You can't take it off the table.
Jake, I understand you're trying very hard to, which again, is your job. I respect it. It's great to get exactly the headline, right? That catchy headline.
I'm trying to get an answer to the question.
That says Miller refuses to rule out the United States should have Greenland as part of the United States. There's no need to even think or talk about this in the context that you're asking of a military operation. Nobody's going to fight the United States militarily over the future of Greenland.
One last question, Stephen.
Doesn't make any sense.
Now, take a moment to contrast that with Democratic Congressman Jason Crow, a veteran former Special Forces who serves on the Armed Services Committee. Watch how he describes what happened in Venezuela, drawing on his actual experience as someone who's been in combat and has seen war firsthand. Unlike Lindsey Graham, Stephen Miller, and all those pathetic MAGAs I just showed you, including MAGA Mike Johnson. This is what an actual adult who's been through real combat has to say. Check it out. Play this clip.
The more important questions to me right now are, should we have done this, and what comes next? You know, I am haunted by the ghosts of Iraq and Afghanistan, where those invasions, those military operations initially went flawless as well. But then it was the years later, the trillions of dollars spent, the thousands of American lives, the decades of lost opportunity that followed that were the problem. And the appetite for Americans right now for more nation building, more endless quagmires is almost zero, right? People are struggling with healthcare, their housing, that's where they want our focus.
So today is January 6th, and I want to bring up something else too. Scott McFarland was one of the first to post about this. After 2 years of dodging questions on the matter, House Speaker MAGA Mike Johnson is now arguing that the legally required January 6th plaque needs to be reconsidered. Here's what MAGA Mike said in a statement. As written, the statute authorizing the January 6th plaque to be put up on the Capitol building is not implementable. And the proposed alternatives from Democrat House staff, not members mind you, also don't comply with the statute. Then he adds, if Democrats are serious about commemorating the work of the U.S. Capitol Police, they can work with the appropriate committees to develop a framework for proper vetting, just like the House does for things like congressional gold medals, commemorative coins, and other ceremonial duties. Here's the plaque right here. According to federal law, that January 6th memorial plaque was supposed to be up by March 2023, and it still hasn't been put up. That's how pathetic MAGA Mike and the rest of these MAGA Republicans are. Let me know what you think. Hit subscribe.